Gettysburg College in Pennsylvania has recently postponed an event that centered around being tired of cis white men. So I'm at UT campus to ask students what they think about the event. Let's go find out.
Well, I'm a cis white man myself, so I think I'd be kind of offended, but yeah, I mean, I'll be okay. I mean, people get harassed like that all the time, so.
Honestly, slay. I agree. Yeah, that's fine. I mean, I don't know too much about what is like the event like.
So it was an event where people were going to go like paint and draw about how they're tired of cis white men, and then the students were going to be able to display their art, kind of just like, you know, showing how they feel about it. What do you think?
I feel like that's a pretty healthy way. I mean, like I think it's kind of funny, you know, like hating on white cis men because, like, just taking out anger in a more healthy way. Like if they're just doing art and like painting and expressing their emotions through like a creative way, hell yeah, like I support.
I think the problem is just the name and that they're just like, oh, why are you attacking like a certain demographic? I think if they just change the name and just do like sneakily, I guess it would be better.
Negativity is not the answer. You should
We're
never diss
positive
another
people.
person. Yeah.
So
there could
we
be
should
another
not be
way
tearing people
they could have
down. We need
carried
to
that
be
out. Yeah.
uplifting everyone.
Yeah, I guess the question should just be, how do we feel about the white homies being hated on in Pennsylvania? Is it a good thing?
No,
Is it
that
a
is
bad
not
thing?
a good thing.
You
No.
should
Bad
never hit
thing.
on a person.
Honestly, I think it is helpful because there's just a lot of problems within, like, I guess, certain type of cis men. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not saying like all of them are like, but like there is that certain behavior that some cis men will like carry.
I feel like they just get away with too much.
Man, I mean, like, if I saw that, I would just be like, I mean, I haven't done anything to you guys, you know what I mean? I get the whole, like, you know, like, again, like, if they were affected by it before, then I guess it makes sense and I'll take that into context. But then again, like, if I was personally attacked, I mean, I would feel pretty bad about that, to be honest.
I don't know, it seems a little bit problematic, I'd say.
It's important to recognize the systemic benefits that cis white men reap in our American society.
Saying like we're tired of straight white men in society is really as like explicit as it sounds. I think it's just contributing to a general idea that like we're tired of straight white men having the power and everything, you know? And it's like we as women of color, as like students at this university, like we're very much capable of certain things, and we don't have the same privileges that are offered to straight white men.
And I've been hearing that from a lot of the ladies that I've been talking to today. Talk to me about what some of those privileges are that, you know, straight white men have that you don't have. Talk to me about that.
I think I don't really know. Have you ever experienced like a specific instance?
I don't know, but I also need to go.
I know, I do
really
need to go. I'm sorry.
As especially people of color, we know the privileges or the advantages certain races have.
Talk to me about some of those privileges that white people have that you guys don't have.
I would just be like, okay, I guess I'll start with I am a black queer person. If I were to just walk amongst the streets, I'm also like women like I look very feminine. If I were to walk across the streets in the dark as a black queer female presenting person, I would not feel safe because I feel like I would be pretty targeted. But if I were a white cis man, I don't think I'd be like the type of person someone would come up to and hate crime, because that's just not what happens. I think it's definitely better now. Like obviously I feel safe where I am now, but like I feel like being as a white cis like man, you would be safer everywhere. Like you will never face any sort of like just the feeling of fear wherever you are, like in some certain places, as you would as a person of color or a queer person.
You brought up the example of a man. What about like a white straight woman then? Do you think that she might feel the same way, or do you think that she has a privilege to not be targeted because she's white?
I think she's almost as well as much of a target as a black woman, but it's just a black woman or another woman of color would have, first of all, sometimes, you know, in some cases, sometimes the white woman would be considered more seriously by the police than the black woman, or because the woman's black, the police might have some suspicion. And it's not all in all cases, but in some cases that has happened before.
I'm certainly cognizant of my own privilege because of my own race, the color of my skin.
What privileges are those?
Lots of things. I mean, like, I think there are certain assumptions that come with certain people. Like, when they look at a black person or an Indian person, they automatically have this profile in their head, racial profiling. And that still exists. I mean, we're not going to escape that until human depravity itself goes away.
Talk to me about some of the privileges that white men are awarded that you guys are not awarded.
Definitely, I guess just getting away with situations. Like, if I were to, I don't know, I guess... Here you go. I have to think about it. I can't.
It's situations like if I had a problem with a male teacher and they were a white cis male, there was less of a chance for something to happen to them because of it. I could literally report them for anything, but because of that, if they were upstanding in the community, sucks to me, basically.
Do you think that it would be the same reaction if it was a black male teacher?
No.
No. I think this problem would be solved immediately.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like POC people are more targeted, or minorities are more targeted, especially with crimes in general, or if a person of color was to do something wrong, people would deal with it more quickly than if it was a cis white male.
So you mentioned straight white men having more privileges. Can you talk to me about what some of those privileges are?
Yeah, so generally, there's not really ever a sense of discrepancy whenever someone is trying to, let's say for instance, there is a man who commits a crime and he's, a regular looking white guy. Police are, generally more likely to not have adverse reactions to them. Say if they're having any sudden movements or sharp movements, they'll generally be more lenient with them compared to if it was a black or brown person. Generally doesn't really matter about, well, I guess the gender does matter sometimes, but more so I guess the skin tone when it's referring to police and stuff like that.
Where do you get that analysis from?
Statistics, crime statistics, rates of arrest compared to comparing white people to black and brown people or minorities in general.
What would you say to people who say the black community commits the majority of the crime, that's why they're more likely to be arrested? What would you say to that point?
I would say that there are certain factors of society that have contributed to black and brown people being more impoverished, and crime is sort of the way that a lot of people see an escape from this poverty. Stealing is a crime, but say you're a hungry man and you go into a grocery store and you steal some food for you or your family. Is that really a crime, or are you just trying to survive at that point,
Specifically, minorities say that straight white men have more privileges than they do. What are your thoughts?
I mean, I would say so. I mean, I know that growing up, I had a few more privileges than my peers, for sure.
Like what?
I mean, just, I always say growing up, I didn't get everything I want, but I had everything that I needed. And I feel like some kids don't get everything that they needed just based on wherever they grew up, whether that's...
But do you think that affects just minority kids?
Explain on that.
Do you think that there are no white children that are also potentially affected by that?
Oh, I definitely do. A lot of my friends that are white grew up like that. People that are grown. I didn't grow up in a rich neighborhood or anything like that.
So that's what I'm saying. Is white privilege a real thing? I'm just trying to figure it out because as a brown female, I don't think that you have more privileges than me, but apparently a lot of other women think that white people do. So I'm kind of trying to figure out what those privileges are.
I mean, honestly, like, I think it's a way deeper concept than that, than either they do or I don't think it's that black and white. But I know that, like, I know a lot of Hispanic or black people that have had better privileges than I have, and that doesn't mean that they have, like, a black privilege or a Hispanic privilege or anything like that. So again, it depends on the context. I would say the majority of the time, maybe white people are a little bit more better off than their minority counterparts, but at the end of the day, I don't think it's that black and white, and I don't think that you can just say that white people have privilege. That's it.
Weigh in.
Yeah, I just don't think that you can generalize that just to white privilege when it's kind of more dispersed than that.
As a white man, I mean, do you think that it's easier to be racist towards the white community in 2022? Like, do you think that, we get away with being racist towards white people a little bit easier?
Absolutely. We absolutely do. I think, yeah, I wouldn't say there's a certain stigma. I don't feel that way, that there's a stigma behind being white. I think that's kind of a shitty thing if anybody were to say, like, oh, I feel like I'm not comfortable in my whiteness. Like, my brother, you can't fix that. It's not something you can change. So,
Well, y'all, it was nice to see the racism levels at UT Austin have gone down a little bit. So great video today. By the way, I am going to be at America Fest for Turning Point USA in Arizona this December 17th through the 20th. Go to amfest.com and use coupon code SAV, SAV, for 20% off your general admission ticket. I would love to meet you, and I would love to see you there. Thanks for tuning in.